Right, guys, welcome back. So, what we're gonna do today is, installing the printer service and as well as the printer sharing and the related practical. So, practical like in a manner that you can fulfill your requirement as well. So, what you can do is go to the control panel here. All you need is hardware and devices and printers. Like you could install printer, and here so you can say add printer, add a printer. So as you can see, there's nothing in here. So what we can do is there are, so this option needs to be selected, the printer that I wasn't isn't select the listed. So click on the add a local printer or network printer in a manual setting. So next, and you're going to select the file. It's a virtual printer file or print to a file, right? That's called something called virtual printer, and say next, right? And you're going to select the manufacturer. So for the moment, what I do is I'll select Microsoft and Microsoft PCL6 class driver. So I'll select this class driver. You can select any driver, not a problem at all. Say next, and you have to give a meaningful name, but it should be very short, meaningful name. That could be ideal if you can actually select the PRNSER. This is something this is something very important, right? Okay, so PRN service or print service or whatever, right? So I'm going to give the PRN service. So you can give any name, not a problem. This one here, and the printer name. Say next, and here what you can do is you need to add the the path or location information about the printer. So what we can do is easily, right? So you can have the printer, the IP address of so the server, then the path can be selected. Now here so my server is 192.168.118.103.39. So go ahead and select this here, copy it in here and say paste, and here, and then what you can do is location of the thing, and you can assign like this PRN service. And here you can skip the comment service, but that's all right. This is a primary printer service, right? So you can comment anything and say next and finish. So as you can see, the printer service in here the printer has been installed as it is. So all you need is right click, and we need to do other configuration, right? It's very important. Right click and say printer properties, and you need to select certain level of things on here as well, right? So I'm going to select this thing. As you can see, everything is selected, the path and all those things has been selected. On preferences, nothing inside, no, that's all right. Other things are all right. And sharing section, on the sharing section you're going to select the list in the directory, because we are going to publish this printer in the Active Directory domain controller. So I'm actually tick on this one and say okay, right? It doesn't matter later we can say okay. So as soon as it lists in the directory, it will merge the printer with the Active Directory for the people who's going to use this thing, right? And they then say port, and you can check it out and all these things. Other things are all right. Later on, not we'll come back to those things and say apply, and then okay. So the printer is now is there, right? The hardware and printer, as you can see, the printer is there. What I do is actually I gotta go and actually go for more other settings for the printer. Just before that, what I do is I'm going to install printer and document service with the support of Active Directory. So open the server manager, and add roles and features. You will select that add roles and features. Next, next, and then next. And here you have to select print and document service. Click in here, right? Document service. Next, next, next. And as you can see, printer server is like selected. And select restart if it is needed. Install. So it's going to install the printer service, printer server on this Active Directory domain controller, right? And become like printer service or printer server, right? So you have to wait until the progress wise comes like to the end, right? As you can see now, everything is fine, not a problem. Feature installation is completed and save cost, right? Not a problem at all for me, like so I'm all right with everything. In you can minimize this thing. As you can see, the printer service like is published on the dashboard of Server Manager. So go to the tools and see whether like so our printer is listing in Active Directory because we selected list in the Active Directory. So the Active Directory users and computers, and then and then here, so what you can do is like you can see like whether like all these like in place. All you need is like, so right click on this space and say find, right, on the domain, and click on here and say printers and find now. As you can see, the printer is very nicely published on the Active Directory with the path of like this server IP address and the printer name, right? Means that my printer is now published in the Active Directory domain controller where other users can use it. And before all these things, what we can do is like after checking like whether it's published like on Active Directory domain controller, make sure it, and you can click and close like the wizard, right? And you can close the server manager as well and go to the printer properties again, right? Printer properties, and then we need to do the rest of the configuration with button of the printer. Say right click on this printer, right? And then what you can do is like printer properties, right? Properties here, and go to the like as you can see like we enable the list, the list in the directory, which means that Active Directory. So which means we found the printer in Active Directory, which means that it's published in the Active Directory domain controller. So now here, right, advanced, like in advanced, right, so you can select, right from this the printer, even though the printer is attached here, you have to you can select the time frame, right, which means that in Sri Lankan office, right, so or any other like office in the world, right. So normally the work is starting starting on like normal 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Right? That's how like the 8 or 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. right. So you can select from which time frame to which time frame this printer is available for printing. So here, as if it is a Sri Lankan context, so what I do is actually I'll select 8 a.m. and then 5 and say p.m. right. So during this time, anyone listing in the the printer like section can print via, right, this printer, this particular printer. And the priority, right, priority means like whoever accessing this printer get the number one priority. Likewise, you can set the priority number up to 9, 10, 11, like that, but we need to have the top priority, so then we can select number one priority. And so if it is everything's all right, and we can go ahead and select the security, right? The security. So you can implement the security. So you can here, like, everyone group allowed, printing, right? So what we do is, like, we don't need everyone to be printed, like, so all the documents, like, via this printer. All we need is, like, so we need, like, remove. So these things, these people, that's all right, server operators. And if you don't need, like, them, you can remove it, right? Administrators, say, we can remove, like, administrator or administrators, right? So if you need, like, so you can remove those people. So for the time being, I'll keep it those things. Creator owner, we don't need that. All application packages, we don't need it. Everyone, we don't need it. So what you can do is, now we need to add certain people where we created, like, so we created, like, there's something called group called networking. So we need to add, like, the networking group into this place, right? Say, as you can see now, say add. So there's a group called networking. Working here, networking group is there. So add, and then you can, give the permission, allow, right? Allow in here, right? And then I created the person. If it is, like, person, like, so to be added, is also to be added, like, can be added, not a problem at all. So in here, so say add. So we created, like, we added a person called Jason, right? Densil, Jason S Densil. So we'll say Jason D, right? Densil. Say we created, like, the user, like, so in here. So we added this user. Say okay, right? And also, like, this guy got the permission of allow printing, right? So the administrators, like, other than that, right, they can print on the paper and manage this printer, manage document, and so many other things can do. And even administrator has the same thing, right? But my networking group has only the print, allow, access, right? And if you need, you can give other permissions as well. But for the time being, both networking and Jason as Densil has same permission of printing. And once everything is done, say apply, then okay. Which means that, so everything is fine on my, this thing, and networking, and the other groups, like, which is selected in this place, is got, like, the first priority for printing, right? As you can see, we selected printer properties, we selected, so the first priority. And between 8 a.m., like, 5 p.m., that this printer is available online for, for others to be printed, like, all the documents. And secure, like, on here. So no other people can print, no everyone can print this on all the, like, this printer. Only the networking group, this person, and the administrators group, and print operators can, do all these, like, printing scenarios. That's how, like, you select, you create, like, the all the permissions, and everything else, like, credentials, like, to give to do the printing over this printer. Say everything's all right, and say cancel. So you don't need, like, set anything else, and you can close it down, this thing. And you can switch it back. And we need to install the printer on Windows 7, which means that client end. All you need is, like, so you can start button, right? And what you can do is, you have to type like this, right? /. So we need to browse for server. It's 192.168.118.139. It's my server. As you can see, the print is, like, there, not a problem. Leave it like that, right? So that's my networking path, right? All you need is, like, go to the control panel, and here, like, so it says hardware and sound, devices and printers. And this time, so all you need is add a printer, right? So it's administrator password, like, asking the administrator password. Say administrator right, and say add. And this time not a local printer, it's a network printer, because it's far away from, like, there's this server, because the server is into the server room, and this is client on workstation areas, right? Add network, wireless or Bluetooth printer, click in here, and as you can see very nicely, the printer service, like, listed here. So click on that and say next, and it's looking for driver, and it's downloading driver and finishing off the installation on this machine. So everything, like, it's fine. So you can see, like, so the printer is active, and the clients can always utilize the printer, right, without having any problem. But they're getting, like, which is like, the logged on person, like, as, like, Jason Densil, like, so Jason is Densil, so he gets, like, first priority printing once everything is all right. So which means that, so in here, right, so we selected, like, so that Jason, and then because of, like, this Jason is, like, logged on into the the workstation, and he can now print everything successfully. As you can see that you successfully added the printer service to, like, on Windows Server 2012, right, and say next, and everything's fine, say finish, because you can see the printer is, like, everything's done on this printer and active and ready for printing. And you can see, like, printer properties, as you can see everything's fine in here, everything's here, very nice, very nicely done, right, everything's cool, and everything's fine, not a problem at all. Okay, so that's how we conclude printer installation and sharing and giving permissions and setting on various aspect of printer. So I hope that you got, like, something and for your, like, so for your knowledge. So thank you very much and have a great day. Cheers, bye bye.